Welcome to the MarketMYSTR show, the show made exclusively for short-term rental owners and co-hosts that actually works, so you can stop wasting time and money on short-term rental and co-hosting marketing strategies that don't work. Listen in for tips, tricks, and our book solid, move the needle, and core 4 marketing strategies. Here's your host, Scott Hill.
Welcome to the MarketMYSTR show. This is our second episode. For those of you who listen on via podcast platform, then you're not going to see live video. For those of you who are watching and seeing us, then you're either watching on Facebook, our private Facebook group, and that's how you can get us if you'd like to watch the video, along with us on our YouTube channel. So, Jeremy, welcome.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so I haven't decided on what we're calling this episode title. We'll figure it out. But essentially what we're going to do here today is we are going to start our journey with anybody who would like to listen on how we are starting Ultvare. You and I know, have had a couple months together now as what's called partners. And officially, we actually have made that official recently. So what I want to do today is I want to start us down the path, not only for you and I to sort of document our progress over the next couple of years, but most importantly, allow people to watch us take this journey together. And that may really help them as they want to get into co-hosting, sort of follow us, use us when they can as a guide to help them succeed in their co-hosting journey too.
Yeah.
So here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to cover what Ultvare is, the origin story behind it, the ultimate goal. What do we want to accomplish ultimately with this company? Our goal for the next 12 months, our progress to date, wins that we've had, losses or sticking points that we've experienced together, and then our objectives for this week. So the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to introduce everybody to both of us. If you're listening for the first time, I might suggest that if you're wondering what the MarketMYSTR show is, maybe you go back to the first episode. But for this particular episode, I want to introduce me so that you guys can understand who I am, why I'm here, and then Jeremy can introduce himself. So my name is Scott, and I have been in marketing software for now almost 7 years. I've been a small business owner my whole life, right out of college. And since then, I've had 3 businesses that I've sold. But in the last 7 years, I got into marketing software. And about 3 years ago now, I met Bill Faith. And when Bill and I talked, we had daughters on the same soccer team. We started asking each other what we each did, and Bill told me about his short-term rental community that he is a leader in, and I told him that I did marketing software, and he said he was looking for a solution for his community. That's how I got into short-term rental, the short-term rental ownership community. And what I did was we built a exclusive all-in-one marketing software for short-term rental owners, and that's eventually how I met Jeremy. And so I'm here, and in Bill's last STR Wealth Conference, he had Pace Morby as a speaker. And when Pace Morby started talking about acquiring real estate, it just all started coming together. And all the co-hosts that we have as subscribers, we have almost 500 users on our MarketMYSTR platform. I got the bug. And when I got the bug for it, I did really quickly appreciate that I didn't know everything, especially a lot of the details around how to manage a property. And so I started actually thinking about an idea called Ultvare, and we can talk about that after Jeremy introduces himself. But at that point, once I got far enough into my Ultvare idea, I realized I couldn't do this myself, and that's why Jeremy's here. So Jeremy, why don't you go ahead? I will say I'm a very faithful guy personally. My faith is very important to me, and I have 5 children that mean the world to me, along with a wife that I just celebrate our 29th anniversary. So
Congrats.
Personally and all that is probably a really big part of my why that I can talk about eventually. But Jeremy, good to have you on the MarketMYSTR show, and obviously it's awesome to have you as a partner, but why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Well, likewise, and thanks for having me. I do want to say, I think you and I first started talking about this idea maybe back in January of we're in this unique position where we're really building this company from scratch, and we can kind of put it out there, and maybe it becomes something that people can use to kind of expedite building their business and kind of skip over the things that we discover along the way that don't really work. So hopefully, people listening are able to take advantage of that. The selfish side too, you and I are already in an accountability group, but this is kind of another accountability group for us where we need to put actions behind what we're saying. So I'm excited. I'm excited for all of it. We're gonna get into it, and I have all the faith that you and I are gonna build something pretty special. I'll try and be somewhat short of kind of who I am, but I'm going to start all the way back with when I started my professional career in construction management in New York City. Started a large general contractor and then moved to being an owner's rep where I'm running large projects for clients. What I learned in that period was essentially what I enjoyed out of that project was completing the product, having it done, and then having that end user be able to enjoy that space, whether it was students in a school, somebody in a restaurant, or even just like a large retail space. So I discovered that was kind of really my drive when it came to real estate, but I really did enjoy real estate and wanted something that wasn't me building real estate for other people. I wanted to build it for myself, which led me into around probably, honestly, about a decade ago, 2014, became one of the bigger pockets people listening like crazy, binging all the podcasts. And my plan was to, start burring and be that person who starts that way. But one of my good friends, Tom Anderson, in 2019 bought his first short-term rental in the Poconos. At the time, I personally was like, oh, way too risky. I don't know what's going on with the numbers here. He's more of back of the envelope, being able to pencil it out and willing to take the risks. I saw how well he was doing and also saw how much people were enjoying the property that he had purchased. He then purchased another one, and then by 2021, I was on board. So him and I went and bought 2 properties in 2021. Still really didn't know what we were doing, and it was a side hustle. 3, we bought 2 more properties together, and that's really where the shift happened. That's where I started to say, okay, I'm going to turn this into a real business, not just a side hustle. So what I did to try and get it, the structure together was I actually joined a coaching program, Legends X, which was led by Jasper Rivers and Eric Moeller from the Get Paid for Your Bad podcast. And that was great because it really gave me the foundation that I needed. And we're kind of using some of that today in our business to be able to build the structure. And I think that'll probably evolve over the years, but it gives us a start. And then I started Your Vacay House, which was the management company that I had in the Poconos. So we had 4 that we owned. Then we ended up adding 8 client properties. So we had 12 that we were managing, which I quickly learned. My original plan was to get to 100 plus units in the Poconos, and I was going for quantity. I quickly learned that was not the path that I wanted to go. Took on some of the wrong properties to begin with, right? So I've made a lot of mistakes in that period of time of going from 0 to 12. But what I also realized was if I was one of my clients, would I want to be in their shoes in the position that it was set up for my business? So would I want to be someone who doesn't own my listing? Would I want to have to wait to the end of the month to get my payments from the income from the properties? And I realized that I really wasn't creating a business that I thought would be the way that I would want to receive it on the other end. So started changing my thoughts and then essentially ended up joining Inner Circle in March of 2024. I gravitated towards Bill because of what he talks about, quality over quantity and the way he runs his business. And then I started switching some of my clients to the co-host model. And because when I talked through it with them, most of them were like, oh yeah, this sounds great. Let's go in this direction. And then I met you through that program, right? And ultimately Ultvare was born. And shortly after that, I started letting go of some of my clients so that I could 100% focus on Ultvare, aside from the other things that we have going on, but that was the focus. And just a side note, I guess, for this podcast and what we're building, like you said, you have a large family. You've got a few businesses that are going. You're a busy guy. I've got a 19-month-old daughter at home. I have basically another business that is pretty much full-time running projects in New York City. That comes with a 3-hour round trip commute 1 to 3 times a week. There's not much time, but if you want it enough you have the desire and the motivation, you're going to get it done. And I think that's 100% what we're going to do here. So just really excited for everything to come. I think we thought we were going to be a little further along than we are now in business, but I think we're setting up everything perfectly that when everything hits, it's going to be a home run.
And I don't know how to describe the faith I have in you, the trust I have in you with all that you have going on, that you're still giving this. I guess that you demonstrate it, so I do see you do it. We have this, I don't know how I would describe this, because someone could confuse what I'm about to say as an excuse, but we have this reality that we deal with every day where we, like you just mentioned, all that we just have, that we have on our plates on a daily basis. We have this willingness to be a bit fair with each other, but yet still know that we're pushing towards something. And it
Yeah, 100%.
passes. Neither of us want time to pass without getting clients as soon as possible. Reality does hit at times.
Yeah.
We both have this, I don't know, like it's a built-in thing. Like you and I, our introduction was pretty benign. You needed a ride over to the hotel after dinner, and you and I weren't even interviewing each other at that point.
Right.
And I didn't even really start the process of looking for a partner until
Till
like
after.
weeks after that.
Yeah.
But you and I rode together. I got a great feeling. And then, you and I obviously owe a lot of thanks to Dan in our accountability crew for what he's done. Even that, and I don't know exactly who built that spreadsheet, but that spreadsheet where everybody was able to answer the question, am I interested in a partner possibly if the situation's right?
Yeah, I think
And
it
you
was
were
Dan.
on that list. And Dan did it? Was it Dan?
I think so.
Okay. Where you had answered yes. So that just having that list was how you and I then, it created an opportunity for us to have that first conversation. And then again, like I think we have demonstrated to each other that we're willing to take action. I think it all goes back to when we decided, okay, let's actually fly down to 30A and look at the area. You had never been there.
Right.
That impressed me about you, where you were just willing to say yes. You could have gone down there and hated the place and said, I don't want to be here. Like, I'm not going to do it.
It's the beach. Beautiful. That would have been tough.
I didn't think I was going to be a hard sell, but anyway, you said, yeah, let's go down. So we went down there. That was a great first trip that allowed you and I to spend time together. And I think that's really what got us here.
Agreed. You and I were on Zooms, but that was the first time, we met in person. And I will just say, this is my second coaching program that I've done. Before I did the first one, I kind of wasn't sure about them. It was kind of like, am I really going to pay somebody for this? And I can, learn on my own and do it. But the real value is in who you meet. Through Legends X, I met somebody who's crushing it, Derek Israel, and, I stay in touch with him, and I've learned a ton from him. Obviously, you and I meeting in this program, I've just renewed and done a second year. There really is tremendous value in these programs.
Yeah. So my why, I'm doing this for a couple reasons that I think are very leverageable. One is I'm the founder of MarketMYSTR. This is the MarketMYSTR show, and MarketMYSTR helps short-term rental owners and co-hosts. We're going to be able to help both of those groups as we move along, because you and I will have enough conversations, and you'll be on many of these episodes talking about our journey, but explaining and sharing the tactics, the literal tactics we're using, one, to get co-hosting clients, and two, to drive bookings for our clients that we have in the properties that we're going to host. So for MarketMYSTR subscribers, that's one of the whys this is going to be so effective. The second is I want to build a business that I can write off as a business expense to go to the two favorite places I love to go as often as possible. And so that's my why. Jeremy, what's your why?
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple of different things, right? Just in terms of this podcast, just being able to help other people. That's really one of the things I've learned through these programs is, just working with all the great people that are trying to build similar things, and just kind of help along the way. And then personally, I mean, it's my wife and my daughter, right? Yeah. I mean, the first 15 years of my career, I was nonstop working, right? And not that I don't want to work, but I want to work on something that I enjoy, I truly enjoy. Just going back to the people being able to use an end product in my career, some of my favorite memories from just doing the short-term rentals in Poconos for 4 years was you get that text photo of their kid holding their first fish that they caught, right? Like that stuff is just amazing. Or they want to go out, but their kids don't want to leave the game room type of thing. I think being able to build a business, and I think co-hosting is a business that can be done this way, is to build a business that works for the life that you want. Right? I think, we're going to leverage virtual assistants to an extent. Right. And there's a lot that you and I are going to do, but I think we're going to, in time, be able to say, Scott, you really loved this aspect of it, so you're going to stay and focus on that. My aspect is, something to do with, say, revenue management or operations. Right. I can focus my time on that. And we still have other people that are taking care of the day-to-day. Being able to, like I said, my daughter's 19 months, when she's 5 and she's got something to go to, I want to be able to have the opportunity to say, okay, it's the middle of the day, I'm going to be able to go and do it. Yeah. Because I'm discovering how fast life goes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about our ultimate goal. For us, we know that we originally talked here about the Ultvare idea was germinated by me, again, by my desire to be in two places I love. I want to be in a place where I can ski with my family. I want to be a place where I can be at the beach with my family. My wife isn't so excited about the ski side. She loves the beach side. It just might be me and my kids on the ski
Right.
side. But Ultvare,
You can
this
operate
is the
ski. Right.
yeah, this is the Ultvare logo, and the reason why I did it, and the reason why the logo exists this way is it's half sun, it's half snowflake. So that's kind of the why the logo is that way. The smiley face is an exaggerated smiley face for the letter U for Ultvare. I know Jeremy and I, when we first started talking, I was trying to convince him to be in 3 markets at the same time, and he's convinced me otherwise, which is why I've actually partnered with Jeremy in the first place, because Jeremy has learned some very hard lessons that he's going to talk about over the next couple months of why he's doing what he's doing, why he's shifted, which is what I'm leaning on him for. And this is just one of the examples that I've leaned on him for. I said, let's go into Salt Lake City, let's go into 38, let's go into Orlando. And the reason I said those 3 markets is because I've done the research about what I believe to be the 3 best destinations for these activities, and there is no second place. So there might be a second place, but I think it's a distant second place. The reason why 38 is the best is because arguably they've got the best beaches in the United States. White sand, all this. I mean, we've chosen a section of the Emerald Coast, and we can discuss why. And then for Salt Lake City, the way the snow forms, enough people who know a lot about skiing will know that it's awesome. But I think it's ultimately gets the nod as the best because of accessibility. You can get in and get out of the Salt Lake City airport and to the slopes in about the shortest amount of time available for skiing, especially for people who don't live by ski areas, especially for people who can get direct access to the Salt Lake City airport. And then Orlando, because it is the entertainment capital of the world for families. So I came to Jeremy with those. That is the Ultvare idea. So why Ultvare? The letters of Ultvare are a couple of the first letters of each of the 3 words, ultimate vacation rental. Those all smashed together are Ultvare. That's my idea. That's what I wanted to do. And then Jeremy, you gave me some advice. Why don't you share with me what that advice was?
I mean, I think I think focus is kind of a big thing. I think as we're starting this business, focusing on one market and getting that market to a place where it's stable. We have the clients, we have the systems, and then being able to mirror that to the next market, which our plan is going to be Park City. And then, Orlando, I'm not 100% opposed to,
Right.
but it is a hard, and there's a lot of challenging markets out in the country these days, but it is one of the markets where, people were coming in and really theming out these properties, spending, multiple 6 figures to theme these places out, and the competition just got crazy and crazy and crazy. Crazier. And, it could just be a challenge to keep up with that, even though we're going to be providing, incredible experiences and be incredible hosts. So we may do it, but I think the plan is let's get 30A right. Let's move to Utah, get Park City, and then let's move one more if we deem it's something we want to do.
Yeah, and I think that's another benefit of being part of the Bill Fate group is that he's made it very clear that the areas that we're going on into are not necessarily buyable markets right now. They are possibly fantastic co-hosting markets because we can go in with elevated results. We can go in with elevated processes. We can go in with what we believe is going to be an elevated experience for owners.
Especially because they've been vacation rental markets for so long. A lot of those traditional property managers are still out there and they're doing a horrible job. So it shouldn't be too challenging to disrupt that old market.
So that's our strategy. So that's what we've decided to do. That's why we're going in it. That's why we're Ultvare. So our ultimate goal we've decided on is, I'm going to break this up and just help me where I missed something. But what we've decided is our boundaries for where we're going to co-host on A are going to be between Camp Helen State Park and Sail Hill Preserve State Park. Now, if you look at that, if you know anything about 38, you'll know that that's one big stretch, but the reality is there are 11 distinct communities, Rosemary, Inlet Beach, all those different communities. And what you and I have decided, it may be harder to do, we're going to figure it out, is we've decided to, the reason why I say harder is from a marketing perspective, it's going to be a little bit more involved. There's going to be a little bit more work to make
And more
community,
time.
right, more time for community type content, and then
Right.
targeting
So what
community
you mean is instead
owners.
of saying in our Facebook ads and things that we're going to be deploying, instead of just saying 38, we're saying Inlet Beach. We're
Right.
saying
And
Rosemary Beach. Right.
that's almost saying like that's 11 marketing strategies instead of one marketing strategy. But the
Right.
reason why that's so important that you and I have decided is we're only going to have a handful of properties in each of those communities because we want to be able to tell a unique story and we want to be able to provide our clients with exceptional and unique co-hosting.
We're not going to get to 100,
We're
right?
not going to get
That's
ever
not
to
the plan.
100. We're
Right.
not
We
going to
want it.
say, and I
Yep.
actually had a conversation with Bill on my way down to one of his events, and I was talking to him. He goes, Scott, don't tell people you're going to have 25 clients in
Right.
38. Tell people you're going to have 3 in Inlet Beach. I'm like, that makes sense. So you and I talked about it. We decided that's the direction we're going to go, and that is the direction we're going to go. Ultimately, we're going to decide after each one, and once we get a handful, how many it's going to take to reach our goals. We've said
Yep.
at times we've talked, you and I have talked about the amount of properties not to exceed 25 in that entire market, but we have also talked about booking revenue, like how that
Right.
rolls up to our goals too. What are your thoughts on
Right.
that?
Yeah, no, I don't think we need to be pigeonholed to a maximum number, right? Maybe it's 25, but maybe it's 15.
Right.
Right. It could change. And yeah, like you said, our plan starting off is to not take on any properties that are currently making less than 200,000 a year.
That's
With the
right.
goal of being able to push that number up through revenue management, marketing operations, and whatnot. So, as we get started, maybe there are some properties that we're taking on that are closer to that number. But as we grow, I think we'll be, one, increasing revenue on the properties that we're managing, but also bringing on potentially better properties that have a closer floor, essentially. So we may not need as many properties as 25 to kind of get to an ultimate goal.
Yeah. And so you and I have learned, I think this is some of the stuff that we've learned I've been vacationing down in 38 for years. So I do know the community a little bit better than you do, but we've both taken time to learn the community better over the last couple of months. And I think one thing we've learned that this community has its challenges.
Yeah.
There's the haves and have-nots with property owners. And I think that's where you and I are going to be extremely focused on being and we've already done that. We've already turned down 2 potential clients because it
Right.
wasn't in our quote buy box or our co-host box. So what we've decided to do personally is we are not going to take on a client that is one of the have-nots. They're not within a quarter mile of approved beach access. And that is probably the most important thing. Right now, 38 is really in the midst of some really bad haves and have-nots when it comes to locations.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of one of the first things I learned in the Poconos was it really does come down to the property.
Yeah.
Right. Doesn't matter as good of a host I am. Like, if the property doesn't have what's needed to allow it to separate, it's going to be really challenging to separate.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
being super selective is great. It just also takes us a little bit longer to get that first right one to hit.
Yeah.
But I think we're doing the right thing by, sticking to our guns and only taking on the ones that fit that specific quote unquote buy box.
So our ultimate goal is to have up to possibly 25 properties on the 38 area within our stretch. Our goal is to eventually launch into the Park City area, all of those Wasatch Mountain ski resorts, and have maybe up to 25 there. That's our ultimate goal. What do we want to do in the next 12 months?
I mean, ideally, in 12 months, I think if we can get to 10 properties in 30A, I think at that point, we should have some systems in place, feel pretty good about it, and we can start thinking about the next move.
Yep.
But I think coming back June 2026, if we have 10 properties, I think we've done pretty good.
And I think that is, again, where we're very aligned, where we have a track to run on, where Dan, in our accountability, Dan Colonnahay he's done that.
Yep.
He did that in
Right. He
Lake Norman.
replaces revenue in a year. Yeah.
Right. So
his income.
that's where, that's the thing. We're not doing this by ourselves. We've got a community of people that we can draw from and all that. And your experience, I mean, you've had co-hosting clients before, all that. That's really fantastic. So let's talk about, what do you see as our wins to date so far?
I mean, I honestly think it's a lot of little wins that are adding up, right? Like, even just getting our stuff together so when we do have a client, we're ready to go, right? To the extent of our co-host contract is teed up in MarketMYSTR, right? So we have that first call or second call and they're ready to go. It's right in their inbox and we can talk through it, immediately on that call. So really just we've been getting our ducks in a row, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's all these little wins that are going to lead us to that first onboarding, that first property that we onboard to go really as well as possible.
Yeah. I think we've had a lot of wins. I think us meeting and deciding that the co-host retreat at Smith Lake with Bills is really our launch date. And I think we've demonstrated that was our launch date. You have done 2 long form content ideas that you have you've recorded them. I need to edit them and get them up. I've done one that I've already
They might be
published.
edited. You might be able to just post them. I gave you a couple options, but yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So, and did you do B-roll on them and all that stuff? Is there any of that with it?
So I think the difference too of kind of the stuff because you're focusing on marketing, what you're learning in the area. My stuff is kind of screen share.
Okay,
right?
gotcha.
Where I'm in price labs, I'm doing comp sets, or I'm doing seasonality pricing, things like that. So it's kind of hard to do B-roll. But if you take a look at it and you think that's the way it should be, then I'm happy for that.
Fantastic. Okay, so that brings us to why I think this series is going to be so important is you and I on screen are talking through some of these issues that we're rolling through on a weekly basis, right? We have, another couple of our wins. We've committed to each other to meet regularly. We're meeting with our team on a weekly basis. We built the team. We've added Kimmy as our project manager on the VA side. You've been training her on all the technologies. Our tech stack is in place. We're relaunching our website because, again, we're part of Bill's community, and he's told us we need to really elevate that website. So when we have that funnel ready to go and we launch this long form and short form content, this 100-day person of interest marketing plan that Bill has shared with us, that we will start to get activity. And because we'll have a calendar in place, we will actually have the ability to bring on a client. And that is right now. I mean, you and I've got the last thing I want to do with this podcast is talk about our objectives for this week, everything we're going to accomplish by Friday, so that we know that we're on pace to deliver on what we're talking about. What are the losses so far, do you feel like? What have we not done as well as we've needed to do?
Honestly, I don't think we really had any losses yet. I think it's just grasping the fact that we thought we were going to be further along, right?
Yeah.
I think we both thought, I think you thought probably within 2 months we would have our first one. I thought within 6 months. We're at about 6 months out.
Yep.
But again, we've made the progress. And just to stick on what you said before too, with working with Kimmy, we kind of are in a good place, or we have an advantage where I do have properties. So I have her already working on operations things in the Poconos so that she can make a seamless transition to operations in Florida when that comes about. So everything we're doing is just leading us towards success.
We've got our LLCs in place. We've got our bank accounts in place, right? We've got our
co-hosting insurance is teed up, right? So that's ready to go once we're ready to bring somebody on board.
Our MarketMYSTR subscription's ready for Ultvare. I mean, we've got everything in place now. We've got a phone number. We've got email. We've got website domain. We're ready to go. It's relaunching, leveling up our website, and then we're going to be ready. So I think the loss for me is what you...
That and marketing are the two biggest things. Like I am committed. I know I didn't hit my goal 2 weeks ago. Put money in the pot, right? Because I didn't hit my goal. But last week I did film 2 long forms, edited them. The goal is I'm going to do 1 a week, because that I think is really the priority right now to push us forward. We need to be out in front of people, and they need to get to know, like, and trust us.
Yeah. Objectives for this week. So what I have for objectives for this week is we're relaunching the website. This is in the next 5 business days. So guys, kind of, if you're listening to this, you want some encouragement, you want to kind of try to keep pace. Again, I have a partner. I'm not doing this all myself. I did that for a reason. Jeremy brings complementary skills to the table that I have, and I think that's why it's just going to be such a good fit for us. Maybe you don't need a partner if this is something that you've just decided to be like a Dan Colon. Hey, you're all in. You don't have any distractions at the moment, and you can focus all your attention on the business as a whole. Jeremy and I did not have that luxury. And I don't even know if that I would use that word. It's not that we didn't have the luxury of, we've chosen to do this. You've chosen to have another. We've chosen to accept that each other does have different things in our lives, right?
Yeah, and I think too, what you're an expert in and what I'm an expert in are the same things, right? So that kind of was an advantage for us. You're able to handle the marketing side and kind of take the lead there, and I'm going to do operations and revenue management. We're both happy with that, right? Where we don't need to control 100% of the business. I'm happy for you to control the portion you're going to control, and I'll control the portion I'm going to control, and together, we're going to run a great business.
And I think, as you mentioned earlier, we've learned a lot from Bill, quality over quantity, right?
Yeah.
And you and I have done the math. You and I know where we want to be at a mature business, or even in the next 12 months, how that's going to impact our lives and what we have to do from what does each property do in booking revenue in order for us to feel like we're moving the needle for ourselves. And we just have to divide that in half. It's a pretty simple exercise, but for those of you out here who are trying co-hosting, what kind of business do you build? Jeremy and I asked the question. We maybe didn't ask it to each other, but I'm sure I asked it separately. I'm sure you asked it of yourself. How big do we have to be? So if I'm doing 50% of all this profit, what's in it for me kind of deal? And I think we both came to the conclusion this is a model that will serve us both.
Right. Yeah, and I think, we're also looking at this as a legacy business, right?
Right.
We'll build it so it could be sold, but I think we plan to hold this long term, right? And maybe your kids get involved eventually. She's only 19 months, but maybe she'll get involved at some point too.
I think that brings up a very good point. When I had a business coach the last 4 years, and this has motivated everything that I do from now on. In the first meeting I had with my business coach, he asked me to introduce myself and explain myself, and I told him I was an entrepreneur. He goes, "Stop right there. Don't ever use that term again in my presence until you have a business that works without you, because I know your business doesn't work without you yet." I'm like,
it's great.
Okay. It was, phenomenal advice. And you and I have started this process by saying this business needs to work largely without us. We need to build this from day one as a business that has processes in place so it eventually works without us. So we get to do exactly what we talked about at the beginning. You get to be at your daughter's events when she's 5 because you have someone dependable. And you and I have already talked about this too. These details that you and I are talking about that I think make it so likely that we're going to succeed, which are, I am willing to trade. If I look at my 50-50 partnership with Jeremy and I see part of the marketing that I'm getting paid for, I'm not willing to do that anymore. I better find a capable person who can do it so I can defend myself to Jeremy that I have got this covered, and that part of that, let's call it pot, that I may be capable of getting, I'm trading some of that because I don't want to do the work anymore, but it better be done right kind of deal.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And we'll get there. And just to one other point, because we are kind of dividing and conquering, one of the things we did was, what does a corporate structure kind of look like, right? Yeah. So that we can say, okay, you're sitting in these seats, I'm sitting in these seats. Yeah. And then anybody that's below us knows who, tasks roll up to, right? Or responsibilities roll up to. And I had mentioned it to you. I listened to too many podcasts, but one of the ones I listened to was this hospitality company that had two creators essentially, and they did the exact same thing, and they're super successful. And they know their roles, and everybody in the business knows their roles. So that's going to be something that we're going to make sure we put in place.
So we are going to provide a way for people to stay engaged with our progress. And as we lay out our objectives every week, we're not only going to show you that we either succeeded or failed in those objectives, but we're also going to provide the resource that we created so that you can use it too if you want. So for example, one of our objectives this week is to relaunch our website and have the intro call funnel in place, which means we are going to have long form content that we're publishing, which is this 100-day marketing plan that Jeremy and I have committed to each other. We are each, because again, another benefit of our partnership is Jeremy and I decided to do every other week. Jeremy's creating every other week content. I'm creating every other week. So 13 weeks. I only got to do 7. He's only got to do 7. And we got our 100 days of content. We're doing that so that when we relaunch our website and intro call funnel, when we send people to the long form content, our long form content call to action is what Bill says should be your singular focus. Get people on an intro call. And that's what we're going to do. Every single link from long form content is going to be schedule a call with us. Every single link from short form content is a link and an invitation to view our long form content. Pretty straightforward. That's what we're doing. but relaunching the website and intro call funnel.
It's all value add too,
All
right?
value add.
We're not selling. We're trying to
No selling.
give value to people that are doing the same thing and just hope it helps.
Yep. So the funnel gets them into our funnel, which allows us to put our best foot forward. And all we're going to do is put our best foot forward. We're going to talk about in the future when, not if, when we get our first client, what did it take for us to get there? Jeremy and I have toyed around with 60 days free management services for the first client. We don't know what we're going to do to get our first client, but we'll let you know what we're going to do.
Right, because that one of the biggest hurdles is not having a property in the market, right?
That's right.
Going to be
one of our
number one question, number one objection that we're going to get is, okay, but you don't have a property in this market, so why should I be your guinea pig?
That's right. And we can't wait to tell that story, how that shook out, how did we overcome that, and all those challenges we're going to go through that will allow everybody watching here to figure out how they're going to do it.
Right.
Kind of deal.
And that was exactly the problem I ran into with the Poconos. I had my own owned properties I was managing, but I wasn't managing anybody else's. I missed on 2 clients that I thought would have been great clients, and that third one I just took just to have it, and it was the wrong client, wrong properties. You know, so it's an objection we're going to have to work to get over, but we will, and we're going to just stick to our guns, and we'll get that right first client.
So relaunch the website, relaunch the funnel. All those will become resources all of you listening can use. Then I'm going to be publishing your first week of long form content. That will go out with the appropriate links. And then we're going to launch our first paid ad campaign that leverages our long form and short form content. Those are the 3 big objectives.
Which is targeting owners of properties that we're interested in.
That's right.
Co-hosting.
Exactly. And that's, gosh, so much to share. But then, that just is a big win right there that we didn't even talk about. Organizing all those target properties and putting them in custom lists on Facebook. I'm going to have to make a note that could be a episode in and of itself.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's all I think will be good. We're at 39 minutes, so this is too late to tell people that this might be a 2-part episode. First, cut it up. But I think this is the beginning of something really special, Jeremy. I know you feel that way. And any parting words for this first episode?
No, I mean, just stick with it, right? I think that's kind of what I have as a mindset at this point. Stick with it. Keep doing the little tasks that pay off long term.
Yep.
And we'll get there. That's really it.
All right, everybody. We will see you in the next episode. Until then, good luck and I wish you the best success with your short-term rental journey. Take care.
Thanks, Scott.